Hello. So we're going to be talking today about chapter 6, which deals with the two gods, Athena and Poseidon. It actually focuses almost entirely on Athena. Poseidon gets a little nod. And this is a little more surprising in that Poseidon, theoretically could have a chapter all his own, but at any rate, he does not get one. Two stories regarding Athena, and there are more than two, but the two that I want to sort of highlight are the story of the birth of Athena and the contest for Athens. So the birth of Athena goes as follows. Zeus gets a prophecy or somehow knows that the child, if Metis, he's involved with a goddess named Metis, whose name means in practical intelligence. If there is a male child, that male child will be stronger than Zeus, and therefore Zeus will be overthrown. And so he wants to prevent that, and so he tricks Metis into getting very small, and then he swallows her. At the time she is pregnant with Athena, a few months after this happens, Zeus has this splitting headache, and he asks around, and Hephaestus offers to release the pressure by splitting his head with an axe, which he does, and out pops Athena. And she's in full armor. Now, the story, of course, is that Athena is female and not male, and therefore is not as powerful as Zeus, but is very powerful. Of the children of Zeus, is probably the most powerful. And Athena in the Iliad and in the Odyssey both has clearly a very close and personal relationship with Zeus. So that's that story. The other story, the story of the contest for Athens, is that both Athena and Poseidon wanted to be the patron of Athens. Well, obviously the city is called Athens, so we know who's going to win, right, from before things start. But when in the contests, the Athenians, it seems to me, with some chutzpah, ask the gods, what can you do for us? And Poseidon creates a spring of water, but it's salt water. So salt water is fine to sail on, but you can't drink it, so it's not useful for that reason. Athena gives Athens the olive tree, and of course the olive tree was like a tremendous cash crop for Greece, period. Olive trees don't require as much water as some other trees, and you can eat olives. You can make oil out of olives that you can cook with. You can also use olive oil as a form of soap. So there are lots of things, and you can use it for lamps. So there are lots of things you can do with olive oil and olives. So Athena wins. Now, in the story, the kicker in the story is that everyone voted in Athens. There were more women than men in Athens. Athena's victory was attributed to the fact that the women had the right to vote and that they all voted for Athena. And so to placate Poseidon, the Athenians then agree to take the vote away from women. And of course, Athenian democracy did not extend to women. Women had no legal rights in Athens. I mean, if they were not slaves, they were still not slaves. But they couldn't go to court. They couldn't bring charges. They couldn't initiate divorce. They couldn't do anything else that a citizen could do. And so, in a sense, they don't really have any rights. And they, of course, don't have the right to vote. That bit about the right to vote, though, only makes sense, as far as I can see, after Athens becomes a democracy. So that would mean this story likely was created sometime around 500 BCE, which is fairly late. In other words, it was created as a political myth rather than, existing already. So the literary work in chapter 6 is a selection from the Eumenides, which is a tragedy by Aeschylus, from his trilogy, the only trilogy which survives, called the Oresteia. And the Oresteia consists of three plays, which we have: the Agamemnon, the Libation Bearers, and the Eumenides. And there would have been a fourth play, which would have been a satyr play, so it would have been a comic play called the Proteus. So all four plays deal with the homecoming of the sons of Atreus. The Agamemnon tells the story of the homecoming of Agamemnon, who gets killed. The Libation Bearers tells the story of Orestes coming back to Argos and killing Clytemnestra, his mother, and her lover, Aegisthus, for killing Agamemnon. And then the Eumenides is the murder trial of Orestes on the charge of murdering his mother, Clytemnestra. The Proteus tells the homecoming story of Menelaus, Agamemnon's brother. The Eumenides requires a little more explanation. So this tells us the trial of Orestes on the charge of murder. He is acquitted on that charge, but the Furies come on board as the Eumenides. So first of all, what the selection shows, which is actually the trial part of the Eumenides. The Furies have been pursuing Orestes because he killed his mother. Now, he killed his mother for killing his father. That doesn't matter to the Furies. The Furies avenge blood guilt. Orestes killed his mother. From the Furies' perspective, it does not matter what Clytemnestra did. She could have basically wiped out an entire town. Orestes still would not have the right, in the Furies' mind, to kill his mother. So no matter what she did, that is immaterial to them. So they're bringing... Now, he's not contesting that he killed his mother. His argument is he was ordered to do so by the gods, and that it was right for him to do so, in that she killed her husband, his father. So he's avenging blood as well, his father. The Furies argue that doesn't quite matter so much because she and Agamemnon were not blood relatives, as husband and wife would not be. So that's the sort of back and forth. The trial it's before jury. The jury votes, and the jury vote comes out even. So the way Athenian trials worked was you would have however many people were there would be the jury. So if you had 280 people, there'd be 280 people on the jury. If there was 10 people there, there'd be 10 people on the jury. Right? So whoever basically is there to be on the jury is on the jury. The prosecution, in this case the Furies, must win by 50% plus one. They have to at least get one more vote than half. If they fail to do so, if it's a tie vote, then the assumption is that Athena always votes for the defense. And so that's what we have in this. It's a split jury. Athena then votes for Orestes. Orestes is acquitted. So it sort of it's a charter myth story there. But one of the things that Maurizio leaves out, and this is unfortunate, because I think the key thing for this play is that the trilogy is really about the birth of justice. What is justice? Justice is a civic responsibility. It is not a personal responsibility. Individuals, families, groups, like among themselves, cannot actually perform justice. Justice is what the city does, what the state does, what the country does. It is a civic responsibility. It's not a family responsibility. Families can do vengeance. Only the city or the state can do justice. And so the Eumenides are the Furies. The Eumenides means the kindly ones. The Furies bring charges against Orestes. They then threaten to destroy the city of Athens. Athena talks them off that cliff and invites them to join Athens as the kindly ones, as the Eumenides, and be supporters of Athens. And that's how this play ends, with them agreeing to do that. So that would have been an extra 100 lines, an extra 3 or 4 pages. I think it's too bad that Maurizio chopped it off a little bit too soon, leaving it with only the trial and the acquittal. I think that later part is actually very important. I think it's the most important thing. I think it's what the play is all about, and really what the trilogy is all about. And so, in a sense, we sort of missed the point. But I want you guys to know so that you can know. And I think maybe on the in the module I might have that section after. And there is, by the way, a video, you can see it on YouTube, of the whole play, and you can watch the whole play in a really pretty remarkable translation of the play. I think it captures a lot of the qualities of Aeschylus, who is not an easy playwright to read. The Agamemnon is considered one of the 2 or 3 most difficult things to read in Greek. The Eumenides is not quite as tough, but all of Aeschylus is pretty tough. So, all right. The scholarship for Chapter 6, this is probably my favorite scholarship section in the book. It is from the introduction to Simon Goldhill's translation of the Oresteia, and Goldhill uses structural linguistics to analyze the play. So here's how structural linguistics works. Structural linguistics sort of started at the beginning of the 20th century. There was a Swiss linguist named Ferdinand de Saussure, and he argued that one of the features about language is that language works in binary pairs. So words have meaning in two ways. They have meaning in context. So no word by itself means anything, except that we agree it means something. Words in a sentence have meaning, right? So words in the context of other words have meaning. But they also have meaning, or meaning can be suggested in terms of binary pairs. Good, bad, up, down, light, dark, male, female, right? Those binary pairs. So, and that is helpful. I mean, it is a way to sort of make these distinctions. The problem is everything is sort of more gray than it is black and white. And so when you end up with this sort of binary pair thing, it can lead to thinking where we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. Right? Like in the Civil War, the North is the good guys, the South is the bad guys. And aside from the whole question of slavery, which was wrong, and yes, as a Northerner, I would definitely say the North was on the right side, the South was on the wrong side, certainly on the question of slavery. That said, there was good and bad on the North, and there was good and bad on the South in that conflict, aside from the question of slavery, which I would just argue is just wrong. You can't justify it. I'm not going to try to justify it because it's wrong. But this binary pair thing can get you into thinking we're good, they're bad. With it, and it's really always much grayer than that. And so, but it can still help you look at it. So in this play, right, in the Oresteia as a whole, the trilogy as a whole, what do we have? We have a contrast between male and female. Male and female are sort of at odds in the play. So there's a contrast. You have old and new. The old gods are the Furies. The new gods are Apollo and Athena, who are on the side of Orestes. You have personal vengeance versus civic justice. Okay, again, those are sort of binary pairs. And Athena is the bridge because she's female, but she is a civic figure. So she's a public figure, but she's female. right? So that she bridges that gap. And that's one of the things that a structural linguistic analysis of literature will do. It will show you the binary oppositions, but it will also show how the work tries to bridge that gap in some way. Okay. The last two parts of chapter 6 I don't really care for. The third part, which deals with Athena and Neith, there's no question that the ancient Greeks believed, and probably believed correctly, that Athena, the Greek goddess, and Neith, an Egyptian goddess, were sort of related in some way, that they were clearly very similar gods. There's no doubt about that. That's what they believed, and that's the evidence seems to be there. The problem I have with the way Maurizio presents it is the selection she provides from the cosmogonies from the Temple of Athena don't really help her case. I mean, they do talk about Neith, but they don't present Neith as someone like Athena. They present Neith more like Gaia. So it's sort of a mismatch. And the final section on Athena as a political icon is even more problematic, because Maurizio compares Athena to the figure of Liberté for the French and Lady Liberty, or Statue of Liberty for us. And I don't see that connection. The only connection that's there, and I don't think Maurizio talks about this, is that with Lady Liberty and with the figure of Liberté during the French Revolution, you have a female figure representing a public good. And that, of course, fits with Athena, right? Athena is a goddess, but she represents really civic good. But it's the stretch. I think what she's trying to do is a stretch. She also credits a particular work, where she says this work is sort of what her conclusions are based on. I read that work. That work says nothing that would lead to the conclusions she comes to. So I don't know if she read a summary or if a graduate student, supposedly was supposed to read that and gave sort of a summary, which she then used. I don't know. But I think the particulars that Maurizio makes in the fourth part of this chapter are just wrong. I like Maurizio's book. I think Maurizio has done a great job with this book. If I had to pinpoint the single weakest point in the book, it would be the final part of chapter 6. So, with chapter 7, which we'll be looking at tomorrow, we will move on to Hermes, the trickster god of the Greeks.